guys, and welcome back to Reading Club. So today I'm going to read you My Weird School, Mr. Macky is Wacky, Chapter 7 and Chapter 8. Chapter 7. I wish I had a TV in my pajamas. We went to the vomitorium for lunch. I sat with Ryan and Michael. Andrea and her annoying friend Emily were at the next table. I had a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Michael had a ham sandwich. Ryan had a witch sand, which is a sandwich with the meat on the outside and the bread in the middle. Ryan invented the witch sand. He should get the Nobel Prize. Which president are you going to be for your oral report? Michael asked. I'm going to be James Garfield, Ryan said, because I like Garfield the cat. I'm going to be Herbert Hoover, said Michael, because he was named after a vacuum cleaner. I think the vacuum cleaner was named after him, I said. What about you, AJ? Asked Ryan. Which president are you going to be? I don't know yet, I told the guys, but it would be cool to be president for real. Nobody can tell him what to do. I'll bet the president can stay up late, even on school nights. I bet he can eat candy anytime he wants, Ryan said, and he doesn't have to brush his teeth. I'll bet he doesn't even have to make his bed, I said, or clean up his room or feed his fish. I'll bet he can watch TV in his pajamas all day if he feels like it, Michael said. The president has a TV in his pajamas? I asked. That's cool. I noticed that Andrea and Emily kept turning around and giggling. Girls are always giggling. Andrea and Emily were probably talking girly stuff like smelly perfume and how many pairs of shoes they have. We boys have more important stuff to talk about, like whether or not the president has a TV in his pajamas. We ignored them. Our conversation was none of their beeswax anyway. Do you think Mr. Macky was telling the truth when he said Abraham Lincoln had to write on a shovel? I asked the guys. Lincoln should have used a computer, said Ryan. It's much easier to write on. Yeah, but you can't use a computer to dig a hole, Michael pointed out. Well, you can't check your email on shovel, Ryan said. You should check your email if you had a shovel with a built-in computer, I told them. The lunch lady, Ms. LaGrange, told us it was time to clean off our trays. Andrea and Emily walked by our table. Boys are dumbheads, Andrea said. Chapter 8, George Washington versus Abraham Lincoln. It was the Friday before President's Day, and we were putting our stuff into our cubbies. I heard Andrea tell Emily that she was nearly finished with her President's Day oral report. She picked John F. Kennedy as her president. I bet my report is going to be the best in the whole class, Andrea whispered to Emily. Whenever we have an assignment to do, Andrea is always the best in the class. Why does she have to be the best every single time? I hate her. After we pledged the allegiance, we had to go to the all-purpose room for an assembly. Mr. Klutz was up on the stage. He's the principal of the school, and his head is completely bald. I mean completely. I wrote a poem about Mr. Klutz. It goes like this. His head is bare. It looks like a pear. His hair is not there. Where is his hair? Maybe it's in his chair. Someone should share their hair. It's not fair, but I don't care. I wish I had a chocolate eclair. Did you like my poem about Mr. Klutz's hair that he doesn't have? I tried to sound like Dr. Seuss. He was cool, even if he wasn't a real doctor. Anyway, being the principal is like being the president of elementary school. I guess every day is President's Day for Mr. Klutz. He told us he was getting excited about the big holiday on Monday. Are you going to buy a big screen TV, Mr. Klutz? Michael shouted. No, why? He asked. Because they go on sale on President's Day, Michael said. My dad is going to buy one. Mr. Klutz told us he was more interested in the presidents than big screen TVs. In honor of President's Day, Mr. Klutz announced, we're going to have you kids vote for the presidents of elementary school. Whoever gets the most points will be the president when we get back to school after the holiday. That's how democracy works. Any questions? Can we vote for any president we want? One of the third graders asked. There will be 2 candidates, Mr. Klutz said. I would like to introduce them to you now. Each president will make a short speech and then we will vote. Mr. Macky and Mrs. Ruby walked up onto the stage dressed like Abraham Lincoln and George Washington. Everybody clapped. The presidents each took a bow. Mrs. Ruby spoke first. My name is George Washington, she said. I was the first and best president. I was the father of our country. I defeated the British in the Revolutionary War. Vote for me. Everybody clapped. Then Mr. Macky stepped forward to give his speech. My name is Abraham Lincoln. I was the 16th president. I saved the Union. I freed the slaves. I wrote the Gettysburg Address. Vote for me. Everybody clapped. Okay, said Mr. Klutz. Do either of you gentlemen have anything to add? I would just like to mention that the George Washington Bridge was named after me, said Mrs. Ruby. Well, the Lincoln Tunnel was named after me, said Mr. Macky, and Lincoln Logs, too. Mrs. Ruby laughed. They named some logs after you, she said. Big whoop. They put me on the dollar bill. Ooh, went all the kids. Oh, yeah, said Mr. Macky. I'm on the $5 bill, so I must be 5 times better than you. Ooh, went all the kids. Abraham Lincoln totally dissed George Washington in his face. I cannot tell a lie, George Washington said. You're ugly. Ooh, went all the kids. Abraham Lincoln looked really mad. I thought the 2 of them were going to start fighting, but Mr. Klutz stepped in between them. Gentlemen, he said, there's no need to get nasty here. Remember, Benjamin Franklin is on the $100 bill. Does that mean he's better than both of you? The 2 presidents looked at Mr. Klutz. Who asked you? Said Abraham Lincoln as he shoved Mr. Klutz out of the way. Oh, went all the kids. The Washington Monument is way taller than the Lincoln Memorial, George Washington told Abraham Lincoln. You have wooden to eat, Abraham Lincoln told George Washington. And you probably wear that silly wig to hide your bald spot. Ooh, went all the kids. I refuse to fight, said George Washington. I am a peace-loving man. Nobody loves peace more than I do, said Abraham Lincoln. Oh, yeah, said George Washington. You want to fight over who loves peace the most? Ooh, went all the kids. Bring it on, old man, said Lincoln. I'll kick your butt. I couldn't believe Abraham Lincoln said butt. The next thing we knew, both presidents started fighting. George Washington put Abraham Lincoln in a headlock. Then Abraham Lincoln picked George Washington up over his head and started spinning him around. Soon, the 2 of them were fighting on the floor. It was cool. You should have been there. All the kids started cheering and yelling. It was just like watching professional wrestling on a big screen TV. Break it up, shouted Mr. Klutz as he separated the 2 presidents. Calm down, both of you. You should be ashamed of yourself. Go to my office. Wow! Kids get sent to the principal's office all the time. But that was the first time I ever saw a grown-up get sent there. Finally, everybody calmed down. It was time to vote for the president of elementary school. Miss Daisy and the other teachers passed out pieces of paper and pencils. We were told to write Washington or Lincoln on our paper. Whoever gets the most votes will be the president of elementary school, announced Mr. Klutz. The majority rules. That's what democracy and fair elections are all about. George Washington and Abraham Lincoln were both pretty cool guys. I couldn't make up my mind which one to vote for. That's when I got the greatest idea in the history of the world. I decided I wasn't going to vote for either of those guys. I took my piece of paper and wrote this. I vote for Mr. Wriggles. I passed my paper over to Neil, the nude kid. Neil giggled and passed my paper over to Ryan. Ryan giggled and he passed my paper over to Michael. They passed my paper all the way down the row so our whole class saw it. I don't know what happened to it after that, but there was a lot of giggling in the all-purpose room. If everybody is finished voting, said Mr. Klutz, please pass your papers to your teachers so they can tally up the votes. We passed our papers to Miss Daisy, and she counted the votes for our class. Mrs. Patty, the school secretary, came out of the office with a calculator. Each teacher told Mrs. Patty how her class voted, and Mrs. Patty added up the votes. It took about 1,100,000 minutes. Finally, she handed a piece of paper to Mr. Klutz. And the president of elementary school is Mr. Wriggles. All the kids started yelling and screaming and cheering. Neil, the new kid's pet ferret, was the new president of elementary school. Hooray for Mr. Wriggles! We all shouted. Hip hip hooray! So that's the end of this channel. I hope you enjoyed it, and if you did, please click many likes and subscribe Reading Club. So I'll come back later with a new and improved channel. Bye everybody, see you later!